Hello, it's Helen here with another Wednesday practice tip. Today's tip is a really important one, especially for these really stressful times. I want to talk to you about burnout and how we can use our practice to avoid it. As a young musician, when I was studying at university, I got burnt out and it was terrible. I got to the point where I actually didn't want to play music anymore. And since I was still in a music degree, that made things really difficult. Now, as a music educator, I'm very passionate about avoiding burnout in my students. I'm quite attuned to the early warning signs, and I've been working on strategies with my students to help prevent that burnout. So what causes burnout? Well, part of it could be that relentless feeling of never ever being good enough, always having to work harder and harder and never getting a release from that buildup of stress. This happens a lot in the university setting, but also for younger students who are in that whole exam mode, having to meet deadline after deadline after deadline and never getting any respite means that your brain doesn't have any time to recover, and neither does your body. Recovery time is really important. Even elite athletes, such as Olympic athletes, have a holiday after a big meet. They have some time off from their training to give their body and their brain time to rest and recuperate. This time out from that level of intensity can really help to stop that cycle of stress. So if you're starting to feel like you might be getting a bit burnt out, one of the best things to do is make sure that you have one rest day from practice every week. Now, make sure that your rest days aren't outweighing the number of actual practice days. That's not great unless you are at that point where you really need to take a whole week off. You might think that this is counterintuitive, that taking that time off from your practice will prevent you from actually getting to where you need to be. But that time to rest and process will really help your brain to reset, and you'll be feeling so much more refreshed when you come back to your practice. Now, just one little word of warning here. Do not use this as an excuse to take 5 days a week of practice. 5 days is too many to recover from 2 days of practice. However, if you are really getting to that point where you think you might be burnt out, taking an entire week just to reset could be a good idea. If you don't want to really take that entire time off, there are other things that you can do to give your brain a little bit of a break. Something that works really well for me is working on something that's very easy. Playing through music that I used to be able to play well and haven't played in a few years, and just reconnecting with that helps me to find that joy that I have in music again. It also gives you a feeling of accomplishment that you might not be feeling when you're working on a long-term project. If you're an advanced player, there is absolutely nothing wrong with going back to a piece that is early intermediate level and seeing if you can learn that in a day or two. You're still working on your skills and your musicianship by doing this. You're just taking a break from what is causing you the most stress. And by completing that piece in that short amount of time, it's like you complete a cycle. Completing that cycle gives you a sense of release, and that really can help to prevent the burnout that we've been talking about. Of course, I'm a huge advocate for variety in your practice, so that's another strategy that you can use to make things much more interesting for yourself, to give your brain little breaks and to mix things up. Focusing on smaller goals as well can really help you to complete those cycles. We all have moments of tension and release. It's a big part of life and a big part of music. Finding those points of release is so important to avoid burnout. As musicians, we really need to take care of ourselves. Happy practicing.